Welcome back. The next part of the show will be that King Chow will just talk with the facilitators of the breakout sessions and sort of highlight and begin to add, I don't know, intensifications and density and nuance to the conversation. And then we'll move along to the next stage in about, I don't know, 25 minutes or so. So King Chow and crowd, you're on. Thank you.
All right, so thanks everybody. So we are now back here. So maybe actually we will first hear from the breakout sections and see whether actually you have discussed anything that is worth bring up. Then I would say that it's a good idea to start that way. So maybe anyone want to start first? All right, so maybe let you start first. Okay. Right.
Okay. So our team discussed on how important collaboration can help on pushing for sustainability initiatives, because very often if we do it internally within one office, our impact can be really small. And just like our presentation, there's a lot of collaborative projects that lead to larger impact. And the second thing is to, if we or anyone else do something good for sustainability, we have to promote it, because if we don't promote it, people don't feel recognized and appreciated for their efforts. And by this effort, by promoting it, I think it will also influence our peers, no matter if it's libraries across Hong Kong or entire institution or any other institution. We should always be proud of doing something for sustainability and influence other people to do the same. And I think like one of the points that I raised is also like money and infrastructural change is always the two big things that are making our projects difficult and slow. But to ride on the new normal, such as today, we can use technology, we can use Zoom, which doesn't cost us too much, hopefully. And there are a lot of ways to make change and communicate with our community without really having to pay a lot or do a lot of infrastructural changes. And finally, we have a teammate from the NGO sector, and he suggested that to better engage our community on sustainability issues, we can pair up like university courses with NGOs, so that the students in each course can be specifically involved in the society to address those issues specific to each SDGs.
Right.
Yeah, that's
good. Thanks. So basically, I think what you just said is that really, I think it echoes what Cesar was talking about. Share. When you identify something, make sure that you share with everybody else. Actually, you can scale up that way. Right? Okay, then go next. Lisa.
Okay, yes, I have an interesting group. So I have Margarita, Peter, Gina, and Olivia. So two streams. So one is we have Peter from archaeology. So he found that design is helpful in thinking into the past, because archaeology is about looking into the past. But he see the value of design to that has a creativity to how to interpret things, the past events. And also we have Margarita, who wants to employ design to look forward, because the world in front of us is so unknown that she would like to see how actually she is implementing using design to run the projects, and then to see how it's a kind of soft skills for students to know how to formulate problems and then how to solve the future issues. And also Gina is Gina is your colleague, right? Yes, she also, okay, your former colleague. So she also wants to tackle the gender inequalities issues with design, which is challenging, I would say that. And she also mentioned about the issues of interdisciplinary, how to really implement, realize interdisciplinary approach to the gender, to the social issues, right? So. And then we all concluded that design is good because we formulate problems, we can formulate problems, and also for solutions. So solution is important, it's not just about thinking. And then they were impressed by Cesar's Maker Bay. Yes, so they didn't know that there are such a workshop here, facilities in Hong Kong. So because design is always a technical process for solutions. Right, and then creativity. So these are the things that they further strengthen their belief in design after this morning's talk.
All right.
Yeah.
Good. So I think important is that we need to identify a solution, but then before the solution, we need to identify what the problem is.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So next, Nicole.
Right. So our group's topic was about SDGs and partnerships. And then, so to echo with your comment about writing on the technology, when some of the participants actually suggest that some of the apps that we can use for connecting people and networking with people who are interested in the sustainability goals and how to reach them. And so this is definitely an area that I think we need to explore more. And then also to echo your comment about the partnership between universities and NGOs, because I formerly worked in a university and now I'm working in an NGO. So I totally agree with you that we should join forces. Yeah. So yeah, that's sort of the comment, because Esther was also in our group, so I'll save some for Esther to talk about it.
Okay, maybe in that case, if Esther wants to jump in at this point.
Yeah,
Yep.
Okay, why not? Okay, so we have a very diverse group of colleagues from the teaching and library field, and actually, geographically, we have people from around the world, not just from Hong Kong, but Indonesia, Philippines, and Macau, and whoever because I couldn't engage everybody in the conversation because of the time limit, but they share very inspiring initiatives they did in their libraries. For example, like the Indonesian librarians, they did a lot of collaboration within the community and even engaged the embassy, US embassy, on some programs. So they got the support, right? And also run these programs into their, say, daily activities. For example, like they would design the building green with that in mind, so that they can have a lot of plants, food to be shared in the very far future. And they even share this with their users and engage them to the libraries. And then they make use of this chance to engage them in education. For example, like using a banana plant, not just for eating, but also use the leaves and other parts of the plants to do many other things. So I guess this is a very creative kind of design thinking work in support of SDGs, using their natural resources and their environment, and have the process all the way from the beginning of building a physical environment, and all the way to their future teaching and learning environment. And we also have colleagues sharing with us from Hong Kong U that they really want to integrate their assignments and curriculum with design thinking and SDG. So today would be a very good venue for them to get to know each other and the kind of resources provided by different parties, and also the ideas we have been using in the past and to be used in the future. And as just mentioned by Nicole, it would be, I guess, a very good opportunity for us to form a network with some kind of effective platform to continue the momentum, to get to everybody involved and share their good ideas. And last but not least, we also have students today, and they would like to learn more from us and how our say institution and also our programs can enrich their learning. So I guess it's a very, very fruitful discussion.
Okay. So obviously, I think that group that we can talk about how we can blend all this NGO and university and the industry, there's a partnership all come together.
Yeah, and the partnerships, there were like many of them were from, for example, Indonesia, and so and Philippines, and then so yeah, we clearly see that our neighbors in the Southeast Asia region is very active. And I think we definitely need to get them involved more, and we need to reach out more to these our neighbors.
And in a way, I can see that actually we need to create an environment that we have all this great wines everywhere, so that we can food the grapes and we can eat and talk. And that's the way that how we can mingle all together in a very natural environment. All right.
All the way to the nature.
All right. All right. Maybe then I'll go back and Belinda.
Yep.
So my group talk about SDG is a lot of knowledge, but before we teach SDG, maybe we need to teach empathy first, so that the students develop the empathy and understanding of other people. Another thing we mentioned is now that we know about the SDG, how do we turn it into action? So beyond how to raise awareness. So one of the example is a colleague from UST shared. They have a Hong Kong UST Connect platform where they ask the students to take the initiative to research on the topic and build social media and try to give localized example. So I think that's one way you can really to empower the students to learn about the SDG themselves. We also talk about how to measure SDGs. What is like, how do you measure you actually make an impact? So we have discussed like how do we measure something just beyond KPI, maybe some strategic outcomes. One thing we also mentioned is like what you said, communication and collaboration. I think one of the big theme is how do different stakeholder, whether it's NGO, academic, civil society, how they work together. And this is something I think the SDG 17, a partnership with the goal, is one of the hardest to have different people to align the strategy and priority, and hopefully something we can explore more next time.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Right. So, Cesar?
Yeah, one comment from our group is that a lot of the times, maybe because the presentation I did, it was very kind of technology centric, and it can be a bit intimidating because a lot of people want to do something with SDG, but they don't necessarily want to do something with technology. And I think it's very important to sort of break it down and explain it's not about technology, it's really about people, about making impact. And that not only in the faculty of education, innovation can be about the science of education. It doesn't have to have any technology attached to it. So I think it's really important to recontextualize and say innovation is not necessarily about technology. The second is that actually this idea of sustainable development, NICE presented with a new brand with the SDG 17 goal. But actually one of the people who was in my group, he's been teaching sustainable development since 2000, so 20 years ago. And he said that back then it was just a different brand. It's just that now it's finally catching on because we're in an emergency situation, but it's been around. So thinking like maybe there's some really solid information that we have built in the last 20 years and not just think that we're inventing the wheels. And there are really good material exists for more than 20 years.
All right. After hearing all this input, I think that I can frame it with 4 questions. I noticed that we have only 5 minutes left. I want to throw it out and then see whether our speakers will have any input. I think one thing is that we want to define the problem. So when we define the problem, actually we need to have empathy. But then I think we learn about that. It's very organic. It's not very structured. How would we be able to define problems better so that we really can touch the heart of individuals? So that's one thing. Yeah. The second thing is that we talk about support, right? The funding from the university, from the community and partnership or whatever. So is money really the major problem? Or is actually the heart of the people is the major problem? So this is the second thing. Third thing is that I think that as institutions, as a university, how should, for example, in academic units or library or so, that how we can support that to make it happen? So I want to throw that question out is that, well, in the future, do we still need to have library? Do we need to have departments? Should we be simply a vineyard that actually we all gather together
So
and
glad
talk?
you're raising those radical questions.
Right. So the fourth thing is that finally, how do we know that we make an impact? And then so certainly we all know that maybe in a university, publishing something is an impact. But on the other hand, a lot of the SDG is not about publication. So what should we do? So 4 questions and input.
Can I?
Yes. Okay.
I like I said, I work in the university before and I work in the NGO right now, and I do feel like money is not the most important thing, but it's essential. It is really hard to bring people from different backgrounds, in different positions, different organizations, having different agendas, then together and then so work on something. And I think to cultivate empathy is actually a very, very important step. And to me, the way I see it, is actually the first step. But that's the most difficult step, because I remember I had a conversation much earlier with Louisa, and we were saying like, how do you teach empathy? And it's not something that you can teach right away. So you actually have to pay pave the road and the journey to that. And so, yeah, I would wonder if you.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I am still refining or improving on it, but so far, I won't say that there is any black and white method, but then the principle is we need to understand people, what they do. So we do observation. This is a kind of method, and then what they say. So we do interview, and then what they think, and then there is a very specific design approach called design props. So we made some models, and then we prop into their thinking. That's not a prototype of solution, but then prop it into. So I think the key word is to what they do, what they see, and what they think, and then you figure out your own methods to do it. So this might be the starting point.
Right, so that's what Ceci was talking about, field, right?
Yeah.
Right.
May I add
Okay.
this point is like, I don't think that the students don't have empathy, but their empathy, the focus of their empathy or their topic of the issue may not be the one that we want to bring up.
Right.
But the important thing is to find how they intersect, like how different issues intersect, the one that we want to bring up and the one that they are originally interested in.
But isn't that precisely that empathy is that trying to understand what other
Yeah.
people want, not just
Absolutely.
what you want? And so I think that is actually a challenge, because a lot of times we come at it and we think like, that's what I want, and that's what we should do. But empathy is really about what Louisa was saying, that you need to also step in other people's shoes and understand what they want and listen to them. And so I think that is the challenging thing.
Okay, so the solution to that is basically, I think all the teachers should become students. And we shouldn't
agree.
play the role as a teacher, right?
What I found, for example, last year is that the thing that was keeping my students from being able to focus was the protest. That talking about the protest was very, very taboo in the university. And I felt that it really created a very deep disconnect with the students, because it's the elephant in the room and we never talk about it. And so I don't know, this especially with the political situation right now, it's becoming even more taboo right now. But I feel that if we keep not addressing those questions, I think we will just grow more disconnected from our students. I think we have to create a safe space and academic freedom, and I really don't know how to do that.
All right. Okay, so we know that we have a few minutes left. Okay.
Okay, so maybe I would like to address your first question about whether the library is not
Oh.
But I guess we are actually transforming. You all come to the library now, but joining us to build a community for supporting of DT and SDT. So we've been doing things that we are not destroying ourselves, but building ourselves for the next scale of work that we can support the community. And with that, I would also encourage everybody to think about how building this physical community can turn it into a sustainable cycle for, say, showcasing the success of our case or maybe failure, and let us reflect on what we can do and plan for the future initiative. And then share these successful stories for us to attract the attention and also support from the general community, because we need the support, not just money, but also the heart and also the commitment in the long term for us to engage forces to support all these initiatives. So what we are doing now is actually blending all these efforts into one big entity.
Right, so the library becomes the university. All right, so Belita.
No, it's okay. I think we should end.
Okay, the time's up.
Yeah.
So I think that we haven't really addressed the final question. Is that how we're going to make an impact? But I would say that I simply provide a simple solution to that. Impact is not something that you measure next year. Impact is something you measure in history. So if you're doing the right thing, keep doing it. I think that's the way to go.
Thank you.